Well, hello and welcome to the channel. I'm glad you could join me for our new project here. So this is part one of our German Tiger 1 early production by Academy in 1/35th scale. And this is going to be the whole construction. So, quick look at our instructions here. I guess we'll just start with step one. That's a good place to start. And that is the build-up of our lower hull section here. Got our road wheel arms and some cover plates and stuff to put on. Now the first thing we need to do is go ahead and look at the hull. Now this is a bathtub style hull, and we do have a piece of sprue we need to cut out, and that was left over from the mold process. And because of the attachment point there, we need to go ahead and sand that down a little bit, make that hole nice and round so that the plate that goes in there will actually fit. It's always a good thing when your parts fit. So we're going to need a few of these parts here off the sprue. Now when I do cut these parts off, I do leave the sprue gates a little long on them, which makes it a lot easier to get in real close with my sprue cutters, as you can see here. And that kind of minimizes the amount of sanding and all the dressing that I may need to do on the parts. And when it comes to these round parts, like this plate here, you want to be kind of careful that you don't get too close to the part. You could inadvertently cut a flat spot onto it. Now it's not no big deal here on this belly plate, because it's not going to be seen when the model's finished, but you do want to be careful there. And you do want to sand that nice and round. Get rid of any remaining pieces of the sprue gates that may be left. Now in the mold process also, these edges might be slightly beveled, and they should be nice and flat. I should say square. So, now whenever I can, I like to glue parts up from the inside, and that way we don't have any glue marks on the exterior of the vehicle. Since I'm using Tamiya extra thin here, I have to be careful on the placement of my finger when I'm holding these parts in place. Otherwise the glue can come completely through the seam, and then glue my finger to the model and kind of leave a big fingerprint on there, which is, it's okay if that's the way you want to sign your work, is with your fingerprint, but I'm going to try not to do that. Now for these rear access plates here on the bottom of the hull, they are keyed, and I really don't know why they did that, but I guess it was important to Academy that those bolt patterns are lined up. So we have a lot of road wheel arms here, so we need to cut all these off. And there's a total of 8 per side. That gives us 16, which of course we're going to have to go ahead and clean up. And this is a curved surface here on these arms, so I am being careful where I'm putting my sprue cutters. And we'll just sand those down and then go ahead and install them on the vehicle. Now the end that inserts into the lower hull is tapered, and then there's also a locator pin on the hull that engages a socket on the arm, and that keeps all of our road wheel arms lined up. So I'm just going to take and put a drop of Tamiya extra thin on each one of these road wheel arms, and that's just to hold them in place so that they don't fall out on us. And then we're going to take a straight edge, and I always like to do this to make sure that these are lined up. Nothing worse than having a floating road wheel, and I don't really want that on this kit. And then we'll just come back and secure all the road wheel arms. Now they fit flash against the hull, so you've got plenty of glue surface there. So next up is step 2, and we're going to start working on these road wheels. And we have quite a few road wheels to go. There are a total of 48 road wheels, then 2 idlers and 2 sprockets. So what I've done is I've cut each one of these different types of road wheels off and put them in these little condiment cups here, and I've marked them with their actual part number. And as you can see here, we have 6 different types of road wheels to start out with. So it's a good idea to organize and separate them. Now you can see here on the edge where the rubber tire is on these road wheels, there is a mold seam line along with the sprue gate that needs to be sanded out. And it's unfortunate that we have so many to do, but first thing we're going to do is take and sand these down. Now it's not a really bad seam on this kit, so it's not that hard to take care of it. I am using a flexible sanding stick so that I'm less likely to sand a flat spot on the tire. Now once we get all these road wheels cleaned up, we can start our assembly. Now this is assembly A, and that's parts A1 and A3 to make up this road wheel set. So as we make up these road wheel sets, we will separate these out and leave them marked. So A1 and A3 makes up road wheel set A. Whoa, tongue twister there, huh? So anyway, what we want to do is make sure that we've got these glued up nice and even. We don't want to have them crooked and offset. So we do have a second paired set to build up. Now these have polycaps in them, and we just want to make sure that we don't glue the polycap to the inside of the wheel. So we're going to be as careful as we can here, but I do want to get enough glue in there to securely hold this set together. And it glues together just like the last set. We'll just glue that up, and we will mark these set B. Now for set C, it's simply our idlers here, and they do have a polycap in them. And let's see, before I glue this, I'll show you that it is a keyed part. That way the spokes are lined up correctly. And then we just go ahead and cement this together. And it's the same thing pretty much with our drive sprocket. It has a polycap. It is a keyed part. That way these teeth on our drive sprockets line up so that they engage the track correctly. And of course, since I'm trying to video this, it does not want to go together. Okay, there we go. And we just need to glue that up. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in the pins for our idlers here and glue those. That way that'll have time to set up for us while we install our road wheels. And that's going to be in the next step, step 3. So here in step 3, we start off with part A2, which is a single road wheel that goes on the inside. And they're secured in place with polycaps. We just want to make sure, yeah, we already did those pins. So we want to make sure that we are getting these road wheels on the correct road wheel arm. Because if you start on the wrong one, you're going to end up on the wrong one, and then the rest of your road wheels and stuff are not going to fit correctly. So these are secured with polycaps, and while trying to install these polycaps, we find out that they are extremely tight, and I mean really tight. I had hoped that we would be able to assemble these road wheels and then pull them off for painting, but as you can see here, the amount of force that I'm putting on these things, I'm afraid that I'm going to break the spindle, which is the peg that's coming off the road wheel arm. and then we'd really be in a pickle there. So once these things are on, they're just going to have to stay on for painting. So we're going to end up putting the first half of the road wheels on each side, and then as you can see here that there is play, so if you're trying to push these on from the outside without that poly cap being fully seated, then these road wheels are going to actually slide back and forth here on the spindles, and we don't really want that. So it takes a lot of pressure to put these things on, and you do need to be careful. I didn't break any off, so that's a good thing. And it's the same thing when we go to put our next set of road wheels on with the poly caps. Now this is the set that we previously assembled. This is road wheel Group A or Group B. Group B. And it does have a long side and a short side. If you see there in the center hub, and you want the long side to go towards the hull, and then we just go ahead and put our idlers on. Now next up we have these toe extensions here, which is actually part of the side plate of the actual vehicle, but because of the molding process and everything, they made these separate, and we're just going to glue those into place. Now you do want to make sure that they are straight with the inside of the hull there, because they are not supposed to have any kind of an angle. So here we are on step 4, and this is the buildup of the rear plate for the hull, and specifically our exhaust. There's a lot of exhaust there. We're going to do that, but we're not going to attach that to the plate. We're going to leave those separate for painting. And the same thing with these armored guards here that go on around the exhaust. We'll leave them off for painting. And then also I think we're just going to leave the fenders off the back too. So I've only installed 2 little parts here, the small access round panel and then that upper bracket. I think that's for the crank start. But we can go ahead and fit this to the actual bathtub hull, and cementing it into place is not a problem, so we'll go ahead and do that now. So now we're going to turn our attention to these exhausts. Now this pipe is built into 2 pieces, or I should say molded into 2 pieces, and we have to build that up. So we're going to want to make sure that we get it flush fit. Now it is a stepped joint, and then as I flip it over here you can see that there is a space where the part doesn't really fit together. I guess I could sand that to make it fit better, but if I get it a little off then I'll have more to fill. So it's just easier to fill that one gap right there. So to fill that gap I'm going to use what's called sprue goo. Now I stole this from Brett G. You can check Brett G out on his channel. He does a fine job of modeling, but he made up this sprue goo, which is simply, to me, extra thin and bits of polystyrene sprue cut up and dropped down in there to dissolve, and that gives the glue a real thick body, and we can use that as a filler, and that works really good on seams. The good thing about it is it's polystyrene, so it will sand just like the rest of the part will. So we're going to use that to fill this gap. So while we're waiting for that sprue goo to set up and we can sand those parts, we're going to work on these torsion bars here. Now that's part of the suspension. They're included in this kit. However, you probably can't see it at all, ever. But since, you know, Academy included it, I figure I'll just go ahead and put them in. Now the problem that you have is that we have these square sockets that are molded onto the torsion bar, and they're supposed to engage the square pins that are molded into the lower hull. Unfortunately, it does not fit down on the pins on the long side there. So what I'm going to do is just cut those out, and then we can just get them to fit. It's It's not that big a deal. And nobody but you and me is going to know about it. Okay. Now, when it comes to our final drives and our drive sprockets, you have to insert the drive sprocket onto the final drive first. And because of the way the road wheels interleaf there and go up inside where the hub is, there's no way to get that in unless you you got to angle it and rock it in place there. So if the drive sprocket's not on there, you're not going to get it past the road wheel. So just remember to especially follow the instructions right here on this point. Otherwise, you're going to run into a really big issue. And then we just glue that up. So test fitting is it's your best ally in building any model kit. And here we're just going to snap these outer road wheels into place. That way we can make sure that everything's going to go together right when we get ready to do our final assembly. And also we'll be able to get a good idea of how many road wheels and what this is going to look like when we get it all together. And so as you can see here on this one side, that is 24 road wheels. That's a lot of road wheels. And the German engineers, they did this to distribute the tremendous weight of this tank. So here are our exhausts. We're back to these. And I've sanded out the sprue goo, and that actually looks really good. And I've also went ahead and assembled the deflector that's on the top of the exhaust here. So there's these 5 little bitty pins, and I couldn't really video this where you could see what I was doing, so I just went ahead and glued these up. And here we are with both of them, and they're ready to go. So we're just going to set these aside, and they'll be painted separately from the vehicle. So next up, we're going to take a look here at step 6. Now these are the left and right Feifel air cleaners. And we're going to do the earliest type on this particular build. As you can see here, there are 2 different types, so we're going to do these early ones. Now the Feifel type air cleaner is really a cyclonic particle separator. It's not really a filter element. What they do is the air, when it comes in, it spins it around, and the heavy debris drops to the bottom of the assembly, and then it can be drained out. So if we're really careful here when we glue this up, we want to make sure that it matches really good the 2 halves. And we don't want to see this seam, so we're going to have to sand. And if we need to, we'll put a little bit of that sprue goo and make sure that everything is nice and clean. So I do take my flat stiff board here. That's a 400 grit. And the flanges here, you can see they are a little bit stepped, and they should be flat flanges. So we're just going to sand that down. We want to dress these up as nice as we can, because it is kind of a feature here on the Tiger I early production, and we want them to look good. As you can see here, the one on the left has not been sanded yet, and the one on the right has. And that'll also help with our fit. So back to the instructions. And we can see here in step 7, they want us to put all this little stuff onto the back of the tank. We are going to test fit our Feifel air cleaners here. Now you can see I've left off the elbows off of those cleaners. We'll put them on when we go to fit that to the hosing and everything for it. So we just want to make sure that everything's gonna be all right. We will leave those off for now, and the exhaust shields, we'll leave those off. We're going to take a look here at the engine deck section here, and then the roof of the upper hull. I think the best thing to do is to go ahead and assemble the major pieces, and we'll leave the little bitty pieces off that are easy to break off till later. That way we can fit this entire top plate to the hull itself. So here we have all of our pieces. They're all cut off the sprues and cleaned up. Now you do see that we do have this lip that's on the inside of each one of these side doors here. And that's where the fan assemblies are for the engine. And then we have the center section that goes on. And then that's going to be attached to the roof of the fighting compartment. So the best thing to do, I think, is to go ahead and glue these panels up. But we want to get them nice and flat. And because of those little rails that stick down on the bottom, that's going to cause us a small issue, but not too bad. What I've decided to do is we're just going to clamp this to a steel ruler, because to me extra thin does not stick to steel, so we're in good shape there. And we'll just clamp that down, make sure everything's square and seated properly, and we're just going to glue that up. Now once that glue sets up, then we'll just do the same thing to the opposite side, and then we'll insert the center section and glue it all up as one piece. And there we go. And I've already clamped and glued it to the roof of the fighting compartment. So now we have one big straight assembly. So I am going to go ahead and put this vent cover on. We'll put that in place, and we won't have to worry about that. And we're also going to glue this intake assembly here on. This is for the hosing that comes off, well actually it's duct work that comes off of our Feifel filters. And we'll stick this wooden block here on over the fighting compartment too. Kind of get these pieces out of the way. I don't want to glue up the little things like the handles and stuff, because we'll be knocking those off later maybe. I'm just going to go ahead and stick these little parts on. Now there are also some smoke grenade dischargers, just tubes that go onto the top of the hull here, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick those on. I don't think they're going to be in my way, and they shouldn't. I shouldn't be able to knock these off once they're dry and set in place. So there are 3 of these, and we'll just go ahead and put those on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and check our fit here, and we're just going to install this top plate onto the hull, and we'll make sure it's pushed up all the way and close that gap where the rear plate comes up from the hull. Now one thing that I can see right off bat that we need to do is that we can see through these grill doors here, through these vents, and we can see down inside the tank. So I think the best thing for us to do, so that we don't get any glare or any light colors showing up through those, is to paint the interior of the vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I went ahead and taped off, or masked rather, the glue surfaces here for the roof of our hull, and I sprayed everything with Vallejo Panzer Gray on the inside there, and I got a little bit of overspray there. I should have extended the tape a little bit, but that's okay. We'll just scrape that off. That way we got a good solid glue surface there for our, to me, extra thin. And since there's nothing else to go inside of our vehicle here, we're just going to go ahead and put the roof in place. And you can see here through the vents that we don't have that annoying light tan sand color coming back and staring at us. And we'll just run a little bit of TME extra thin here all the way around the perimeter of the roof of the hull here, and that'll just wick right down where we need it to. Now we do want to make sure that it's not bowed up and that it's fully seated, so I am just going to press it down in place, make sure everything's good and solid. So next up, we're going to work on this front armor plate here, and so we have two main pieces that we need to glue together, and also our machine gun. So when it comes to the machine gun, the barrel is not drilled out in the end, as you would expect. And you're going to find this on nearly every kit. Some of the newest ones are slide molded, and you don't have to do this, but I like to do it if at all possible. That way we got a little bit more realism going on there, and it actually looks like a machine gun barrel. So here we have dry fitted the plate to the front. We have our machine gun installed. Now I'm not going to glue this yet because we do have a little bit of a gap here, and I think that's supposed to be a weld seam. And then I'm not sure if that is. Don't think so. I'll see if I can find some pictures on that. But we probably need to prepare that area right there for a weld seam, which we're going to need to put in. Also, we have cleaned up our tow cables here, and they go on the top of the vehicle. However, as soon as I get it lined up, it only has 2 pins on it instead of 3. So one of the loop ends there on the inboard side does not have a pin. So you can see it right here. There's no pin there, and then the hole is a little bit too far forward. And we'll be able to see that after the vehicle's painted up. I mean, we can just super glue this end down into place, and that's not an issue. But as far as that hole goes, that alignment hole, and we got the same problem on the opposite side, we're just going to take and fill those and sand those down nice and flat. So next up, we're going to take a look at step 11. This is our next big fitting issue that we're going to have, and this is the air ducts for the Feifel filters. And so we're just going to kind of mock this up and get those hoses into place, or ducts. So these parts are just dry fitted at the moment, and you can see I've got cocktail sticks or hillbilly toothpicks or whatever you want to call them holding those ducts up into place there where they go into the armored intake. And we just make sure that everything is square and where we want it. Now I have put the elbows onto the Feifel filters, and we are going to go ahead and glue up the ducts into place, those black tubes, and a little bit of TME extra thin, and we're going to make sure that we leave it set long enough so that dries nice and solid. So once that has dried up, you can see that we have a separate unit for the left and right Feifel filters with the ducts already installed, and we can just take them off and put them on. That'll make it easier for us to paint. Now we didn't glue it to the vehicle, of course. Also here at the elbows, that seam, it leaves a gap there, and it also does it on the other side as well. So what we're going to do is use some sprue goo, and we're just going to fill those gaps with that and then sand that down nice and even. So we've gotten a really good start here on building our Tiger 1, and that'll have to do it for this video. I don't want it to be too long. In our next video, we're going to tackle the turret, and then we're also going to work on some other features that we're going to add to it. Weld seams, primarily, because there are areas where we need to improve on this kit, and we'll be doing that. Now, if you're new to the channel and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified when the next part in this series comes out and for all future videos. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these little videos, and I hope that you enjoy them. And if you do like this video, do me a favor, press that little like button, and that'll really help me out. As always, I love hearing from you, so leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of this build so far. So, until the next video, guys, you guys stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.